And we are back here on the GSMC football podcast. And for the second part of the show, we're going to talk about the dark horse playoff teams going into this postseason. And there's a couple of them. And I'm sure, most people know what those teams are. So, there are two AFC teams. And then there's one NFC team that I wanted to talk about. So, we'll go into the AFC first. So, first of all, one of them hasn't cemented a playoff spot. The other has. So we'll get into the one that had. Well, actually, there's a few of them. If they both get in. So two of the three haven't cemented a spot. One of them has. So the one that has is the Browns. I just feel like the way the AFC is right now. Outside of the Ravens, I feel like the Browns could beat anybody. I mean, the Browns could beat the Ravens, too. They proved that, this year. Now with Joe Flacco at quarterback, it's going to be a little different because, they played him with DTR. And that was, they lost 28-3 earlier in the season. And then, obviously, they played that, crazy game. Browns came back. And Dustin Hopkins kicked the game-winning field goal. That was in Baltimore. But that was a game that the Ravens beat themselves. Lamar Jackson threw a pick six in the game. But the Browns have really been playing well with Joe Flacco. And, the offensive line's banged up. Obviously, the running back situation, Nick Chubb getting hurt earlier in the season. Jerome Ford and Kareem Hunt have done a nice job. They really have done a nice job. But, the quarterback situation, it's been a different quarterback. They've gone through four quarterbacks. Now five. Well, because, they're just having them start the final week of the regular season, and that's Jeff Driscoll. So he's going to be starting for the Browns on Sunday. But, listen, the way Flacco's been playing, again, the turnovers is, again, I constantly keep saying it, but that's the one thing that worries me when we're talking about the playoffs, is Flacco throwing the interceptions. Because the pick six he threw to Jermaine Johnson, he double pump faked, he still threw it, got tipped up in the air, Johnson picked it off and ran it, back for a touchdown. It's things like that you worry about a little bit. But, they got a good defense, and listen, Flacco, outside of the turnovers, have been playing really well. So I think with that, combined with their defense, too, because their defense is one of the better defenses in the NFL, and you got, one of the best defensive players in the league in Myles Garrett. I think they could beat Jacksonville. I think they could go into Kansas City and beat the Chiefs. The Dolphins, with them being banged up, they could beat them. They already proved they could beat the Ravens. I feel I'm confident in this team that they can make a deep playoff run. Now, are they going to do that? Well, it remains to be seen. But right now, we'll get into the potential playoff matchups for the first round, in the next segment. So I don't want to talk about it right now. But, right now they're lined up to play the Jaguars, and I feel like they could beat them. They already have. In Cleveland, and I feel like they could do it again. So there's them, and then you got the other teams that aren't, they haven't clinched a spot yet, but I feel like if they do, I think they're going to be a tough out as well. The Bills, with them being a lower seed, they could be a 2 seed if they win on Sunday. So, it's possible that I'm not really going to. Well, if they're the 6th seed, I'll consider them a dark horse. But if they're a top seed, I don't know if you really want to call them a dark horse because they're, they'd be a top 3 seed in the conference. But if they're the 6th seed, yeah, they're going to be playing against the Chiefs to start the first round, if that's the case. So, we'll see what happens there. If that does end up happening. The Texans are another team. That was the other team I wanted to talk about. For me, I feel like, I mean, they would end up going up against the Dolphins. Either them or the Colts is going to end up playing the Dolphins, and that's going to be a tough game. But again, the Dolphins are banged up. It would be two different, obviously two different styles of play if they, either the Colts or the Texans get in. Because the Texans are it's gonna be all on C.J. Stroud to try to, win. The Colts, they got, Gardner Minshew's played well, but you also got the running game you rely more on, I would say, with Jonathan Taylor. Devin Singletary actually ran the ball decently for the Texans, but Texans are going to be throwing it with Stroud. And the Texans can put up a lot of points. So I feel like that they could maybe, make some noise if they were able to get past the first round possibly. Just because, with Stroud in that offense being able to put up points, Nico Collins being back is huge. I think the Browns could go. I think the Browns would be the team that goes the furthest out of the teams that I just mentioned. But yeah, I mean, with C.J. Stroud in that offense, they could definitely be a dangerous team just because, like I said, they could put up points, in bunches. They've shown that in several games this year. So, but yeah, those are the teams right there. Those wild card teams can definitely make some noise. In the AFC. And then in the NFC, I think it's the Rams. Ever since Kyren Williams has come back, I mean, they've just been a different team. He came back in Week 12. They put up 37 points. Week 13, 36. They had that overtime loss against the Ravens. They put up 31. They could have won that game. 28 against the Commanders, 30 against the Saints, 26 against the Giants, and Kyren Williams had a good game there. What were his stats in that game, actually? 20 for 87, but he had 3 touchdowns. So, I mean, he's been a monster ever since he's come back. Matthew Stafford has played well. Stafford on the season has 24 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. The thing that does worry me with them is their defense. It's not like it was, during the Super Bowl run. You still got Aaron Donald there, but it's not the same defense. You don't have Von Miller, no Jalen Ramsey. It's not as loaded. So, that's a little bit of a concern because, when you're going up against these better teams, with these top offense, with some of these better offenses, it's going to be a problem. But the Rams have an offense that they could, keep up with, like the Cowboys, even though the Cowboys destroyed them earlier in the season. The 49ers, they've had problems, playing in San Francisco in the past. And they're going there this week. We're actually going to be seeing Carson Wentz play this week because the Rams are basically locked into the 6th seed. But that's a team that could definitely make some noise as well. Because, again, if they played the Cowboys again, they're a different team than they were when they played the Cowboys. Because I don't think Kyren Williams played in that game. That was week... What was that? That was week 8? Yeah, so 43-20 was the final score. Yeah, I mean, you had Royce Freeman, Darrell Henderson running the football. Stafford got hurt in the game. Cooper Kupp was just coming back. Darrell Henderson was their leading receiver. They were a different team. Back then. Now it would be a different matchup if they were to play again. I mean, if they were to advance, odds are they'd be playing the 49ers in the second round, which, yeah, that would be tough. That would be tough. Because, again, that's a place that they, haven't really had success playing at in recent years. But, again, Kyren Williams running the football effectively. Cooper Kupp is back. And, obviously, we know what Puka Nacua has been doing, in his rookie season. He's been great for them. They're going to be a tough out. They are going to be a tough out. And, in the first round, and we'll talk about it, of course, right now it seems like they are going to be playing the Lions, which I cannot wait for. to see the two quarterbacks going against their former teams. I mean, that would be a lot of fun if we're able to get that, which odds are we probably are, but we'll see. For the Packers, that could, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like they might be one and done if they were able to make it. Same thing with like the Seahawks if they get in. I'd rather see the Packers get in, see what that young team can do. They'd be going up against the Cowboys. So we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves because this is what we're going to talk about in the next segment. But yeah, I mean, we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, so I think the Rams on the NFC side, that's a team that could be a dark horse. And then in the AFC, I did talk about a few teams, but the Browns was like that the top team when it comes to like the dark horses. With the Bills, I mean, I don't know if they might not even make the playoffs altogether. They could be they could be a 2 seed. It all depends. I mean, you could see the Steelers make it. You could see either the Colts or the Texans. I mean, the AFC South isn't even locked up yet, so we don't even. It's just this final week is going to be crazy, and we're going to preview, of course, all the games tomorrow. We'll do our picks. That'll be tomorrow. But yeah, it's going to be a wild finish to the regular season. But let me know what you guys think. What team do you think is of the teams in the wild card round, or the wild card teams? What wild card team do you think is like has the best chance to make a deep playoff run? Because I think there's a couple of them at least. I mean, I know I named more than a couple, but just let me know what you guys think about that. So before we go into our second break of the show, once again, I just want to remind you guys to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So, when we come back from our second break of the show, we will talk about the potential playoff matchups. I know I kind of touched upon them a little bit, within the second segment here. But we'll go into more detail with that. I'll give you my thoughts on what could potentially happen. Obviously, it's there's some playoff spots that aren't official yet, so things are going to change. Once we get like the full-on bracket, after this week, it's going to be different. So that is what we will get into when we come back from our second break of the show. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.